Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Sue Cornbluth. I'm a leading expert in high conflict divorce and parent alienation. And I am here today at the conference to talk to you about you. Yes, you. You are very, very important to healing the relationship between you and your alienated children or grandchildren, if that's why you're tuning in today. Today's focus is going to be all about your compassion journey to healing and mastering the skills to reduce your stress in these alienation situations. This is very important to your journey towards making efforts. Yes, I said making efforts to reconnect. This process from beginning to end is very difficult emotionally. It creates a lot of anxiety, distress. But one thing that I have always taught the clients that work with me is that the one thing that can keep you going in life is yourself and hope. Hope is something that no one can take away from you except yourself. So today I'm going to teach you a method that we use in our practice that helps people connect with themselves so that you can move towards connecting with your alienated children. These methods have been extremely successful for one reason only. It's because we have found that if you are not healed yourself from the devastating trauma, yes, this is a trauma, what you have experienced in being separated from your loved ones is a trauma, and it causes emotional pain in you. And if that emotional pain is not healed to some degree within yourself, then you are not going to be able to be as effective as you wish to be when you are trying to reconnect with your loved ones. So let's begin the presentation today. Let's talk about self-compassion. People forget about this all the time. I'm sure you do too, especially when you're in a panic. But self-compassion is the beginning of all emotional and spiritual healing from the trauma that you have suffered in your life. And we believe here, Dr. Sue and you, that healing yourself creates a pathway for healthy relationships. It's very difficult to give yourself self-compassion. We often talk about let's give other people compassion, but what really is that? And what is self-compassion? When we have compassion for somebody else, it's not feeling sorry for them. It's stepping into their mindset. It's stepping into their world and understanding that they are also in pain from what they have suffered, even though it may not meet what you believe that they are suffering from. But what we're talking about today is self-compassion. And self-compassion is very difficult to give to yourself because one, you have to recognize that you need it. And oftentimes when you're going through alienation situations, you're looking to the outside world to give you the self-compassion or the compassion that you need. But only you can do this for yourself. You can learn. Yes, you can. You can learn to give yourself love, respect, kindness, because our minds are the most powerful tool in our body. And when we learn to give ourselves what we want from others to feel better, we have more control over how we feel and how we think and then how we act. So today is going to be all about teaching you methods that you can apply within yourself to help you become stronger, become more empowered, so that you can be in a better place when you are reaching out to your loved ones to heal this. I know from many people that you have felt broken at times. It's understandable. What you have gone through is extremely painful. And oftentimes when we go through something that painful, it is very, very difficult to get ourselves up again, to try. But here's the thing, everyone. When something is broken or something is shattered, those pieces can be put back together. But until those pieces are put back together, nothing around you is going to change because you're coming from a place of sadness and despair. And nothing good comes from that or from desperation. You have to come from a place of empowerment. So I hope today that the tools that I'm going to review and teach you will help you to leave today with the feeling of, I can do this, I can give myself self-compassion, and I can give myself the healing I need to move forward. Let's begin by talking about the core domains of emotional suffering. There are 4 major ones that I see, and perhaps you have suffered from these as well. The first is self-aversion. What is that? Self-aversion has to do with feeling shame or self-hate or self-blame or the feelings of I'm bad or I did something wrong or I wish I could take this back. This is the core emotional feeling that most people have when they are separated from somebody that they love. They also tend to turn to blaming others, which you may have done as well, but that's a normal response to what has gone on. So it goes back and forth like a seesaw. Sometimes you will feel self-blame, and sometimes you will blame the other party, such as your children or whomever it is. Then this circulates with fear and anger. And this cycle can become vicious. You probably feel this on a daily basis, but then you want to push it away because who wants to feel this? I certainly don't. And I'm sure that you don't want to feel this either. But these feelings are real and they're there, and you can learn how to lessen them. You know, the one thing that I hear so much from people going through this is that the feelings become so strong that they can't cope with them. But you can learn how to cope with them. You are strong enough to do this. And this cycle can be broken. It takes a lot of work to do it, but nothing in life that is easy doesn't happen from not doing the work that you need to do. Everything is hard in life. So we have to work hard to take away these feelings. So what you're going to learn today is understanding what goes on when we get caught in our anger, fear, or hatred. This is when we react instead of pulling back. I had a client yesterday that is in terrible, terrible pain right now. She is separating from her ex, and she tells me in our sessions that she's fine and that she's not feeling anything. But the truth is she is feeling so much because every time that he contacts her, she is becoming extremely reactive and snapping and saying things. And all that does is perpetuate conflict between the two of them. And that is not what helps you or her or anyone to feel better about the situation. So one of the things that is so important is to work on reactivity to the pain or the digs that the other party is doing to you. Clearly, reactivity and controlling that is a major source of healing here. We're also going to talk about teaching the fight, flight, freeze response and how the brain works when we practice mindfulness versus when we are in an emotional reactivity. There's 2 things that happen within a person when you're feeling intense pain. One is fight or flight, But another one that people don't really talk about as much as is freezing, that you just feel stuck and numb. And I wonder if you feel like that. I'm sure there's many people watching this right now or listening that do. That is a normal response to fear and pain and loss. That's what this is, everybody. This is loss. You have lost contact with the most precious people in your life. Everyone is going to feel pain and fear when it comes to this. They are normal responses. It's what you do with them as you move through this that will help you to handle how you're feeling inside. And that takes a lot of practice and changing your mindset altogether. The brain is an amazing thing, but when trauma happens to it, it doesn't fire the same way it would if trauma did not happen. So one of the things that is very important to changing this is working on yourself and comforting yourself when the feelings come up instead of reacting impulsively to what you are feeling. We're also going to talk about flipping your lid. Now, what is that? Flipping our lid is when our limbic system, which is where we feel everything inside of us, gets hijacked basically. And it's like the lights start going off all over your brain that I'm in pain, I'm in fear, I have to run, I have to get out of here. But what I'm going to teach you is how to stay positive and how to stay present when this is happening so that it will release from you instead of eat you alive and continue to ruminate over and over within your brain. So that's what we're going to learn today. Now, this all starts with a method that I have adopted and I teach all of the coaches that work with me. And it is super successful in helping parents and grandparents like yourself move through the emotional pain that you are going through. You see, this is the part that therapists and psychologists and coaches, I feel, do not spend enough time on with you. Oftentimes you want solutions, and I understand that. That's what I'm in the business of, is giving you solutions to what is going on. But I can't possibly give you these solutions and expect you to implement them if you are not in a place where you are emotionally able to do that. So this R.A.I.N method by Tara Brach, you can look her up, she's amazing. She talks so much about self-compassion and how important that is to your feeling to move forward within your life. And I have found that it works wonders when you're trying to move through the alienation process and move beyond it. And so that's why we're going to review all of this today. Now, there's 4 steps to the R.A.I.N method. It starts with recognizing what the issues are and the feelings are, allowing those feelings to come instead of pushing them away, investigating what you are feeling, meaning identifying why you're feeling this way. Then it all comes down to the one thing: nurturing yourself, soothing yourself, giving to yourself. These are the things that we forget to do when we are in emotional pain. But these are the things that you need to do to get yourself to a better place, to do the work, to start reconnecting. We want to transform your internal conflict that you are having with yourself. We want to help you let go of guilt and shame and blame and feelings of unworthiness and anger and rage and abandonment and injustice and lack of forgiveness. And also the feeling of being victimized. Many of you are victims of what happened. There's no doubt about that. But what we want to do here and what you can help yourself do is change from being a victim to a survivor. And that's really what will help propel you into a better place to then do the work to reconnect with your loved ones. Let's start with recognizing. The first thing you have to do is recognize what you're feeling. Okay, we often go right over this one. And instead of saying, oh, I recognize that today I'm feeling a lot of anxiety and I'm feeling a lot of sadness, we try to push that down as far as we can so we don't have to feel it. That is a natural response to feeling emotional pain. We just want to get rid of it. Come on, you know that. Because it feels so bad, right? So why would you want to have that? It doesn't feel very good. But what I'm going to talk to you about right now is pausing and coming home to your embodied presence. What first begins to happen in your bodies when you are having a feeling is it usually comes up with in some part of your body. Mine always comes up inside of my head when I'm stressed. I feel like the top of my head is closing in. And I get a lot of headaches. So while you're sitting here right now, I'd like you to think about and identify within your body where your emotional stress goes. This is called a somatic experience, that the emotional pain is trapped inside of your body. And that is the first step in identifying where your emotional pain is. And if you can identify where it is inside of yourself, inside your body, that allows you to be present with the emotions that you are feeling. So often I will ask people, when you're talking about this and you're fearful that you will never see your children again, what part of your body are you feeling this in? And people will say, in my head, or in my chest, or a lot of times in their throat, because in their throat is where things get stuck, and sometimes you can't get them out. So the first thing is to do is recognize where your pain is within your body and label it. And here are some actionable steps that you can do for recognizing where it is. Go sit in a quiet place and focus on your breathing. Breathing changes the way that you can center yourself, and it reduces anxiety within your brain and in your body. So when you're having anxiety, or you're feeling as though a wave of sadness is going to come on, don't just move through that. Oh, I have to get in the car, I have to drive, I have to go somewhere. That'll help me. Actually, that doesn't help as much. What helps is you getting in touch with the feelings within yourself, allowing them to pass through in a quiet place where you can be alone, and sitting with them until they pass. Now, this great thing, this great technique that you can do while you're sitting there is called 4 square breathing. Now, you can look this up if you wish, but right now I'm going to just talk to you about what that is. I want you to create a box or a square in your mind. And I want you to start at the top of that box and breathe in and hold it for 4 seconds until you get to the next line of the box. And then I want you to release it for 4 seconds. And then I want you to go around that box until that box is completed. 4 breaths in and 4 breaths out. This is an amazing technique that calms your limbic system, which is your emotional system. And it also gets you centered and will release the anxiety that you are feeling at the time. And that is a great tool that you can use on your own. And that's a self-compassion tool also, to give yourself to release the pain that you are in. You also have to recognize that there is tension. that there's tension within your body. If we can't recognize that there's tension within our body, then we can't release it. So that's what I was talking about when I talked about label it, label where it is, and then let go of it. And the letting go is the sitting by yourself and doing the breathing exercise. And then the one thing that I believe does release so much is touch. But when you're alone, nobody can offer you a hand, right? Nobody can offer you a hug. Wrong. You can do that for yourself. So one of the most amazing self-compassionate gifts that you can give yourself is the act of holding. And this is what I teach people to do. I often do it to myself too when I'm in stress. You take your right hand and you put it over your heart. Then you put your left hand over it. And you breathe in, you breathe out. And you're holding yourself. And you are comforting yourself in that moment. Sometimes you may have to do this 10 times, but by the 10th time, I promise you, and I don't make those promises, but if you do it 10 times, you will feel a decrease in your body. Take note of it. You can comfort yourself from the pain of parental alienation. Let's move now towards allowing feelings to come. Boy, we're not good about this overall in general. None of us are. We want to avoid painful feelings in our life. We don't want to accept them. Because when we accept them, oftentimes we say to ourselves, oh, we're weak. We shouldn't be feeling this. This is destroying my life. I don't want to feel this. I want to be happy. Too bad. We cannot be happy all the time. Sometimes we have horrible feelings that go through us. Like I remember a client telling me she was so upset that she couldn't get out of bed or was laying on the floor crying, locked herself in the bathroom for half of the day and couldn't even get out of the house because the feelings were so intense from not being able to see her children. That is a normal response to losing contact with your children. It is normal, but we don't want you to stay there. We want you to move past that in time when you are ready to heal from that. You see, everybody thinks that you can come to a professional and they're going to take this away and heal it from you. No, we are there to guide you to heal. When you're ready to heal from it, we can give you the tools to do it, but healing is a process that is different for everyone, and everybody heals at a different time and in a different way. But the one thing that helps you heal a little bit quicker is allowing your feelings to come. So one technique that helps, that Tara Brach does talk about, and I think is great also, is you want to regard your inner life with friendliness and care. Meaning, you want to talk to yourself like you would talk to a friend. You want to stop the cycle of self-abuse. You want to break the pattern of stacking abusive behaviors on top of already painful experiences. You want to stop asking yourself every day, what could I have done differently? Could I have said something different? Could I have not raised my voice enough? I have to also stop blaming my child for doing this to me because they're also in pain. That is very important for you to recognize as well. That doesn't minimize your pain. Your pain still exists, but the other party is also in a lot of pain. And that's something that if you can recognize that, it will help you decrease your pain and put you in a much better place for compassion. So what are the actionable steps to allow your feelings to come? The first thing is this: become aware of the negative thoughts that you are having. Now, how do you do this? Well, they're already there. You know they are because they're coming in your mind a lot. So what I encourage you to do is sit down, get a piece of paper out and a notebook or a notebook. Don't do this on the computer. When you put pen to paper, something magical happens and things just start flowing from you. So get a notebook or a piece of paper. I would even have a little pad with you all the time if you're in tremendous pain, and write down the negative thoughts that you are having or feeling when they come, just by writing them down or putting them in your notes on your phone if you don't have a pad. But I said the writing on the paper is better. That's a release right in that moment, instead of holding in the negative thoughts that you are having. So if you're having negative thoughts such as this will never change, I'm going to be like this forever, I just have to accept that my children are never going to talk to me again, I despise them for hurting me, whatever it is, they are all negative thoughts and they need to be released so that you can move forward, meaning you have to let go of them to grow and heal. So that's a great exercise to do for allowing the feelings to come. You also want to comfort your inner critic, replacing affirmations, negative affirmations. Treat yourself as you would a friend. So if your friend came to you and said to you, I just don't want to do this anymore. I don't think my kids are ever going to come back. They don't love me. I've done everything for them. They don't respect me, so on and so on. What do you think a good friend would tell you? Would they tell you just to let go and not try? No. A good friend would say to you, I know that you're in pain right now. I think it's important that you work through these feelings. You may feel better after that and have a different perspective. That is what a healthy friend will say to you. When a friend says to you, just give up and they'll come back someday, that friend is trying to comfort you, but they really don't know what to say to help you. And so unfortunately, you have to be your comfort and your inner critic and say to yourself, a good friend would tell me, and if I was that friend, I would say to them that you really need to take some time to work on the feelings that are inside of you before you make these decisions, because it seems as though it's coming out of anger. And that's exactly what is happening here, by the way. You're in pain, but then that sadness turns into anger. And then that cycle starts again where the anger goes back to sadness, and then the sadness becomes anger. And we have to break that cycle to move ahead here. So allowing those feelings to come and embracing them instead of pushing them away, that is going to help you in terms of letting go of the pain. I didn't say let go of the circumstance. Be clear on that. I said let go of the pain so that you can move forward. People do not always do this as much as they should. I certainly don't, although I've gotten a lot better at it. Investigate where these feelings are coming from within inside of you. When this kind of loss happens, what tends to happen is there are parts inside of you that have not been healed from the trauma that you have experienced. This doesn't mean that you're crazy. It just means that we all have thousands and thousands of parts inside of us. Some of these parts are anger. Some of them are sadness. Some of them are aggression. Some of them are fear. Some of them are panic. These are all parts that are inside of us. And these parts can eat away at us on a daily basis. They're usually parts that are broken off from us because the pain was too unbearable to feel at the time, and so they get stuck. And this may feel like there are voices in your head at times. not somebody else's voice, your own voice of where you got stuck in this process, because that's what trauma does. It basically breaks off and it gets stored in a different place in your brain. And this may be what you're suffering from. It's completely okay. But what you can do to soothe those parts inside of you is make friends with them. Instead of saying when a terrible thought comes up in your mind, such as right now, I just want to write a really nasty email to my ex, or I'm really going to now write a really nasty email or text message to my son or my daughter. That is one part of you. It is not all of you. But when that comes up in your head, take a moment to make a friend with it. Talk to it. Say to it. This is self-awareness right now I'm talking about. Say to it, it's okay to feel this way. I know I'm angry. I have a right to feel angry right now. Have compassion for those parts inside of yourself that have not been resolved. Guess what will happen? The anger will start to decrease slowly. If you can make friends with those parts in your head and talk to them and say, yeah, I feel right now that I am so angry, but I know that this is not the right thing to do. I have to move through my anger, not take it out on somebody else. This leads back to the other webinars that I've done before, in the sense that you want to change the other person. You can't. You cannot change the other person. You cannot change your child. You cannot change your grandchild. You can change yourself. And one of the best ways to do that is in what we are talking about here today. So what are the actionable steps here to investigate where your feelings are coming from? Number one, ultra important, recognize you are judging yourself and others. That is what you're doing here, by the way, because you get stuck in, I did this, or they did this, or they only did this and I did nothing. No, that doesn't happen, okay? Conflict between two people happens because two people have done something wrong, not just one. And it's not always about who's doing something right or who's doing wrong. That's where I think a lot of people get all confused. It's just about not judging and seeing and opening yourself up to seeing that both of you are in pain from what has happened, not getting the other person to see your pain, but understanding that you are both in pain and that you have both suffered. You will be in a much better place able to do this and recognize this if you can really investigate where your feelings are and stop judging what has happened here and only focus on healing. Identify the judgments within yourself. Identify where they started, and are they really the truth of what went on here? Or is it your truth versus their truth? The thing here is, if you get into that battle of what your truth is and what the other person's truth is, you're going to be in a conflict trying to prove whose truth is right. That does not heal these connections. It just doesn't. It doesn't, because what that does is drive you two further apart instead of coming together. If you want to resolve your truth within yourself, give yourself compassion for that. But you're not going to be able to convince the other party that your truth is right and their truth is wrong. You're just not. And so that's a feeling that you have to say to yourself, I need to work on letting go of the fact that I'm not going to be able to convince somebody else of my truth. But I can recognize it, I can identify it, I can investigate where that is coming from. And most times that is coming from the way that you were raised, from your past, what you witnessed between your own parents. So look into that a little bit further, and then you can let go of it. When you're investigating your feelings, what emotional areas are being triggered within you. We talked about that again. We talked about that in the beginning, but that continues to happen as you move through this and you move through the pain that is going on. Keep identifying where you're being triggered, what is being triggered inside of you, and label it and say, I'm feeling anxiety in my throat today. I'm going to sit here. And if I can't speak out what is in my throat, I'm going to speak it out in my head. Check in with yourself an hour later and see if that feeling in your throat dissolved. You don't always have to talk it out with somebody else. That's why I'm teaching you today these self techniques that you can use with yourself to let go of the pain. Then ask yourself this. What purpose are these feelings that are trapped inside of me serving? My guess is that they are protecting you. These are called defenses. We all have them, and we all create protectors when we have gone through trauma. And what you have gone through here in not being connected with your children is a trauma. And so we create these protectors or shields within ourselves to not feel what we want to feel. Anger is a protector. Lashing out is a protector. Going inside and beating yourself up is a protector. Identify those protectors. Identify where they're coming from and why. And I'll tell you this, it's probably because you don't want to feel the real emotions that are in yourself about what has gone on. But feeling and identifying those emotions are your ticket out. It's your ticket out of here. All right, let's talk now about moving on from identifying, from recognizing, and moving into the big thing that helps the most in moving forward and giving yourself that self-compassion. I wonder how many of you listening to this right now have even ever thought about giving yourself self-compassion. That was something that I had to also work on myself for a very long time. I was always looking for other people to give me what I thought that I needed to feel better. So I would turn to people and I would share my story of my life all the time. But every time I learned that what I was getting back from them that was comforting and supportive still wasn't releasing the pain that I was feeling inside. And then as I worked on myself, I found out that the thing that was missing was I wasn't nurturing myself. I wasn't comforting myself. I didn't know how. And that's why I am really happy to be here with you today, because I'm giving you the gift that I believe can really help you get to the next level and allow you to reach out to your loved ones with the utmost compassion, because it's compassion that cures conflict, not conflict that cures conflict. I talked to a woman yesterday in Australia that was calling for help. And she had gone through tremendous, tremendous emotional pain. And what I feel is probably mental abuse by her ex. And she is really functioning on a level of fight or flight. And her system is so revved up right now. And while I was talking to her, I said, let's pause for a minute here with the consultation, and let's implement the 4 square breathing. And so we did it. And all of a sudden, she said to me, Dr. Sue, I feel so much calmer. And I said, yes, because you paused your brain and you gave yourself a break from all of the flashbacks and all of the pain that you keep putting back into your mind over and over. And you need a break from it. We all do. We also like to hang on to things from the past that feel common to us, right? We often go back to things that are painful and hurtful because that's all we know, and there are patterns. But we have to break those patterns. When we break those patterns of rumination, then we're able to open up. And when you open up to the world, other people feel it around you. And that's what I'm talking about right now. Nurture yourself. Everything I've talked about today is about cultivating compassion for yourself and others. It is the key to healing all of this. Now, we're not talking about other things today, right? We're not talking about court or filing things that we believe that are going to get our children back. That's one aspect of it. But I'll tell you this, from my experience and doing this for such a long time, what heals these situations the most is not the courts, it's cultivating compassion for yourself and for your children and your grandchildren and whomever is in this with you. When you develop compassion for yourself, you move into compassion for others. That is what reconnection is. It doesn't matter what relationship it's in. You cannot solve conflict in relationships without having compassion for the other party. And maybe you're sitting here right now and saying to yourself, but Dr. Sue, these people hurt me. I'm not saying that they didn't. I agree that they did, but they're also hurt too. And I think that we forget this, that they're hurting also. They don't know what to do either. But what they do know is that when they do remove you from their lives, they feel better. But that doesn't mean that if you were in their lives, they wouldn't feel better also. But they don't know that yet. So to open up that reconnection, it is imperative that you come to them with compassion, not conflict, and not trying to prove your point over them. And the only way that you can do that is by nurturing yourself, because when you give yourself self-compassion, think about how that feels to you, right? Like yesterday with that potential client, she was giving herself compassion in that moment by doing that breathing, and she felt a lot better. Well, when your children get compassion from you, it's the same effect. And if you keep giving that compassion over time, they start to feel that, and their systems begin to change as well. So for the last part of the presentation, I'm going to talk to you about nurturing yourself. And I save this for the end because it is the most important part here. What actionable steps can you take here to nurture yourself? Number one, define the intentional practice, setting an intention and creating a ritual and routine. This means that every time that you are feeling upset, or you are feeling stressed, or you are feeling anxious or panic, or whatever it is that you are feeling, you need to have a routine in place that you can implement. One of the routines that you can implement is moving to a place of quiet, just to recenter yourself. Sitting at your desk, if you're at work and these feelings come up for you, guess what you can do? Breathe. You can do that 4-square breathing wherever you are. So guess what? You have a coping skill wherever you are, so you don't have to go to panic. You can take out a pad and paper and write down what you are feeling. You can talk to yourself in your head. Nobody needs to know that. These are all wonderful, wonderful coping skills that you can implement immediately when you are feeling like that. I don't know if you knew that, but I'm telling you today, that is what you can do. Then this will become a routine. And guess what routines do within our brain? Changes the way our brain fires. So therefore, these coping skills can really help you to do that. We teach this all the time in our Compassion Academy, because I created that because you need that more than anything to get through what you're going through. And so we created that whole Compassion Academy within our practice because you deserve to feel better within inside yourself and then make those attempts to reconnect with your children. But it happens by nurturing yourself first. One other actionable step that also is very helpful is creating a self-love, self-compassion meditation practice of sending yourself love and kind words, such as daily affirmations. I am good enough. I am worthy. I was a good parent. I am a good parent. I will continue to parent my children from afar. I will continue to reach out to my children with kindness. I will give myself kindness and compassion every day. Today will be a better day than yesterday. These are all self and loving things that you can say to yourself on a daily basis that will also change the way that your brain fires. I am loving. I am kind. I am good. I make mistakes. I forgive myself for them. I forgive my children. You can go on and on and on. I forgive myself. But these loving, kind words, even saying to yourself, I did the best that I could, because you did. And I'm here to tell you, you did the best that you could with what you had at the time. Remind yourself of that. That doesn't mean that you can't take other steps to grow. We all can grow and evolve. That's part of life. But giving yourself that love every single day for yourself will propel you further and also help you to be able to give love to others that need it. Letting go of fear is a way of nurturing yourself. Fear holds us back from so many things. Take the risk. Take the risk. It's always worth it. The fear of not taking the risk is not worth it, because fear is what you create within your own self. It's false evidence appearing real. It's the story or the narrative that you're telling yourself about the situation. We all do it. I do it too. Then I remind myself that it's not just my story. It's also the other person's story as well. So you have to let go of that fear of, if I do reach out, I may be rejected. Yes, you may be. That is true. But what if the one time you do reach out and you're not rejected? That's the other side of the coin. When you are able to let go of the fear and say, whatever happens, I am strong enough to handle this. Letting go of that fear helps you to take more risks. Risk equal rewards. See the best in yourself instead of seeing the negative. That's where all the self-blame comes in. I should have done this differently. I should have done that differently. I shouldn't have said that. I should have reacted. Should is a very bad word, because should is something that you may think that you needed to do, but you don't know if the other person really thought that was something that you needed to do. So should, the word should equals blame. So I don't like that word. I could have done something differently. Let's find out what I could have done different. And then let's try to apply that. So try to take should out of your vocabulary, because that's not nurturing yourself, it's blaming yourself. See the best in yourself and others instead of seeing the worst. Try to see that my child is also hurting too. They're not doing this just to punish me. I think that can be very helpful also. how do we really alleviate the suffering from the emotions of the fear, the shame, and the anger that we are feeling during this time of loss? And remember, what you're experiencing here is what I talked about, I think, in another webinar I did about ambiguous loss. Ambiguous loss is that you know that the person is still out there, but you're having such a difficult time getting to them. So they live psychologically on in your mind, but physically you cannot get near them. That is what is going on right now. So because you cannot get near them, you are filled up with the shame and the anger and the fear and the discouragement and feeling as though that will never happen again. As long as you're stuck there, it won't. So what are some actionable steps? I've talked to you about some of these, but one of the best actionable steps you can take to stop the suffering within yourself and move more towards compassion is movement. Yep. Remember, we talked more about how to get in touch with your feelings. That's when we talked about sitting still and letting them go through you and recognizing them so you can identify them. Yep, that's the first step. Then you're going to move into moving. One of the best ways to release the tension and the stress after you've identified all the feelings is moving your body in some way, taking a run, taking a walk, taking a dance class, whatever it is. That also is a great way to alleviate the feelings that are inside of your body, because our mind and our body are connected. So here are 3 things that I think are very important to helping you move through all of this. Write it out. We talked about that, right? Putting the pen to the paper. Write out your emotions. Write a letter. Write a letter about all your feelings. You don't need to mail it, but it is a way of releasing the pain that is inside of yourself. Work it out. That's what I said. Go to the gym, take a walk, hit a punching bag, play tennis, whatever it is that you like. It just helps get your mind off of it for a little. That doesn't mean that you're burying it. It just means the movement that is going on with inside of you helps our brain to focus on something else. Movement doesn't only affect our body, it affects our minds as well. And this is a gift that you can give yourself every single day. And try to fit it in. The thing about changing and feeling better is creating those rituals that you can implement in your life every single day. One of the things that people unfortunately do move to in terms of healing their addictive, in terms of healing, is oftentimes it can lead you into not great things to help yourself, such as addictive patterns and reactive patterns. And that is something that is important to recognize within yourself as well, because that's not nurturing yourself. That's putting and implementing something in to distract you from the pain. And what we're talking about today is not distracting you from the pain. We're talking about identifying it so you can let it go. And addictive patterns can be anything from drugs to exercise addiction to other kinds of addictive behavior that you may be involved in. I don't know what it is, but addictive behaviors don't always have to be drugs and alcohol, is what I'm saying to you. An addictive pattern can also be reacting in a very angry and rageful way. That's addictive patterns as well. So you need to nurture yourself to stop this. Stopping reactive behaviors to emotional pain is really what's going to help you here as well. What are the actionable steps to stop addictive behaviors? One is to identify the triggers. What is triggering you to go gamble tonight? Or what is triggering you to go to the gym 6 times a day? What is it? What is the thing that is happening inside of your brain? Or is what keeps coming up for you, that you'll never be with your children again? Or an instance that happened that you feel is the cause of all of this? They are triggers that lead you to a place inside where you don't feel very good about yourself. So this is where self-awareness work comes in. Self-awareness work is truly a great thing to do to change the way that you think and how you react to triggers in your life. You first have to identify within yourself what the trigger is. That's what I was saying before. And then once you identify that trigger, you have to say to yourself, I'm having this trigger right now. I have to stop, sit with it, talk about it to myself, and then make a better choice coming out of it. So instead of going to the gym 6 times today, I'm going to go 3, and then that 3 reduces to 2, and then it reduces to 1. But you have to have that self-awareness within yourself to say stop. And that's what leads into the next actionable step, which is the self-talk. The self-talk inside yourself breaks the cycle. And it breaks the cycle of the pattern that, oh, I have this trigger, I'm just going to act on this trigger. And then that doesn't get you anywhere. The self-talk breaks the cycle. The self-talk was stop. I need to address this. I need to get help to address this. And over time, that self-talk will help you because the trigger within your mind will respond to the stop instead of the impulsive decision to go out and do something that is not beneficial to your healing. Centering yourself, which means bringing yourself back to center. Grounding yourself. You know, one of the greatest things to do to ground yourself and to give yourself self-compassion is honestly just taking your shoes off, going outside, and putting your feet on the ground in the grass. Because the feeling of the grass against your feet and the ground is grounding. And you can do your breathing while doing that. And then it makes you feel as though you have just centered yourself. And that's what we've talked about here today, right? How to center yourself. All the techniques that I've talked about are ways to help you get through the pain and nurture yourself. This all leads to revitalizing and transforming your relationships. Now, look, am I saying that everything that I said today is going to magically reunite you with your children and take away the pain you're feeling? Absolutely not. Healing is a process. It takes time. It takes practice. It takes someone to help you do it. But what I can tell you is that I've seen amazing results from alienated parents that have done this stuff, that have worked through it, have applied it. And many of them that I have worked with and my associate has worked with has reconnected with their children by doing many of these things. But in the end, the most important thing is that you are in a better place to deal with whatever comes your way. So what are the actionable steps to healthier relationships? 1 is setting boundaries for yourself and for others. When you say to yourself, I've had enough of today with this, I'm not going to research for hours and hours and read books and watch videos all night long, because that is just re-stimulating my mind back to the past and back to the pain and back to the trauma. So I'm going to try to decrease that and set a boundary with myself, because that's not helping you. That's actually hurting you. 2, effective communication. I'm going to learn effective communication that includes listening to understand, not listening to respond. I'm going to learn from Dr. Sue, or I'm going to learn from my therapist, or I'm going to learn from my coach how to listen, to understand what my child has gone through. I'm going to go back and read those letters that my child wrote me that I may have. And I'm going to try to understand it from a compassionate perspective, not an angry perspective. And I'm going to try to understand. I'm not going to just read it so I can respond. And you're going to learn non-reactive communication, that when you are angry, you don't respond to anyone. It does not serve a purpose. And all it does is create more conflict. So I'm going to learn non-reactive communication. I'm going to identify my anger. I'm going to recognize that I have it. I'm going to use these coping skills I learned today to decrease that. Then I may be in a place to write something. You're also going to have respect for each other's differences. And that's the key here. As I said in the beginning, your perspective is your perspective. That doesn't mean it's the right perspective. Your child also has a perspective. Doesn't mean their perspective is right, but it is their perspective. And each party has the right to have their own feelings and their own perspective. And that's something that you have to nurture yourself inside with that self-awareness and that self-talk to come to. And then you will have gratitude. Not gratitude that this terrible trauma has happened, but gratitude that you have learned coping skills to better yourself and to move forward. And that's the results of this. This is the result of building self-compassion in yourself. And guess what? That's something that no one can take from you. As you learn to use these simple techniques that I've taught you today to erase the emotional charges or dismantle, break up these emotional feelings that you have in yourself, you will begin to experience the healing process and the freedom that becomes possible when we make contact with the vulnerability that is within inside of ourselves. I did wait to say that big V word at the end today. Vulnerability is so hard. And that's what you're really afraid of, isn't it? Becoming vulnerable, putting yourself out there in the fear that you're just going to feel pain again and again and again. But what I have taught you today will help in preventing that, because it's you that is in charge of how you feel, not how others make you feel. You are in charge of that. And you will show up differently within yourself, which will allow you to show up differently with others. And you will come from a loving heart instead of an angry one. And that changes everything. So if you want to start coming from a loving heart and not an angry one, these are the methods and techniques to start doing that. Cultivating boundless compassion changes everything for everyone in life. You will show up with that loving heart that I talked about before. And this shift with the loving heart inside of you opens up the family members without you knowing it, because they sense a change in you. And this will help you heal the relationship. I don't know in which way. People ask me this all the time. Dr. Sue, will I have the same connection back with my child again? No, you will not. But wouldn't you rather have some kind of connection than no connection at all? That's what I'm saying to you. But first, you have to cultivate that connection within yourself. We have proved this in the thousands of cases that we have worked with. But now I'm asking you to take that step of proof and apply some of these things to yourself on a daily basis and track it and see the change that can happen within you. The thing is here, you don't always have to rely on others to help you. You can help yourself. Do you need people to teach you how to do these things and practice them with you? Yes. But there's many people that have done this on their own by investing in it. Stop investing in all the pain and the sadness that you are in. Let those feelings go. Work in recognizing them, identifying them, using the techniques that we use today, and try to work towards letting go of them. The more you hang on to negative things, the more they persist. That's not what you want. Let go. But it's not that easy. But with these skills, you can start to begin to let go of the pain. Letting go of the pain opens up the path to healing. Thank you, everyone, for joining me today. I always love being with you. Thank you. I've gotten so much great feedback from the presentations that we are doing for you. And so if you want to contact us, you always can. We are Dr. Sue and You. I am Dr. Sue Cornbluth, and my phone number is 267-261-8462. My email is also listed there, Sue Cornbluth at drsueandyou.com. And our website, where you will find a lot of information and what we do, is www.drsueandyou.com. You can also connect with me on Instagram or Facebook. I put up daily affirmations to help you get through this. And I think it really has changed a lot of people's journey in healing and giving themselves compassion. Please remember, if nothing else, you are strong, you are brave, and you can give yourself that self-compassion that you so deserve because you have survived this trauma. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.